Hi everyone. I'm going to take some time in this video to go through my weather app, which I built using React and its state management tool Redux, developed with the Bootstrap library. Heading over to the reducer file, we are importing Axios, allowing us to make our API calls from the front end, and pulling in our API keys for Google and Dark Sky from our env file. We set up initial state, which will include an object for data, location array, and a mode string that will start with just a capital F for Fahrenheit. That will later convert to Celsius. We set up two action types. One is show weather data and the other is toggle mode to make sure we use consistent string literals for our action creators. Our action creators are payloads of information that send data from our application to the store. Our type indicates the type of action being performed, as well as information that will be passed on. In this case, show weather data will pass in weather data as payload and location just simply as location. Our toggle mode action will pass in our unit of measurement, Fahrenheit or Celsius. Next we go to the thunk, which is where our API requests will occur. I named my thunk fetch weather, and it takes in the arguments latitude, longitude, and location. The thunk is used to delay the dispatch of an action on our front end until our information is pulled from our APIs. We have two scenarios going on here. I will open up my secondary navigation file and my search component to explain. So here we are passing in latitude, longitude, and location into our fetch weather thunk. I chose these three items because we have two different ways of finding our current location, which is currently set to an empty array within the thunk. When our application is first opened up, it may ask for access to the user's current location, or it will automatically fetch that current location. As you can see, my Chrome is already tracking my location of Cincinnati, Ohio. So we can skip down to our second if statement in our thunk, if location is null. That is because on my secondary navigation.js file, we export it with the higher order component geolocated. So we have our latitude and longitude already set, and we pass in location as null, which I will show you at the top of secondary navigation in a second. So we're going to run our Axios request from the Google API with our latitude and longitude coordinates passed in from the geolocated higher order component. This allows us to get location details from our coordinates, in this case the city of Cincinnati and the state of Ohio, among other information about our current address. We push our city and state abbreviation into current location so we can later display that on our front-end component. Now you will see what happens when we run it as a search from our navbar. So I type in San Francisco. You will see our data updates on our browser. Now let me show you the search component. But first, as I mentioned, you can see our initial scenario. We pass in the latitude and longitude coordinates, which we received in the coordinates prop. Here it's abbreviated to coords from our geolocated higher component, and set our location argument to null. Now we can move into our search component. This is a pretty standard search form with a state hook set to the search, a handle change to update state for each keystroke, and the handle submit function, which will run our fetch weather function from the Redux store. You will see we are setting up a use dispatch hook to conveniently access the fetch weather thunk on our front end component. This hook takes the place of our map dispatch to props. Our state is now set to San Francisco, and we pass that string of San Francisco into fetch weather, where we will pass in the null arguments for latitude and longitude. Looking back at our thunk, we are now running the if statement in which latitude and longitude are null. With another Google API request, we can pass in location instead of coordinates, and we are able to retrieve the coordinates data that we will later need to put into our dark sky API request. After our Axios request, we set our longitude and latitude, and again push in location data to current location array, this time being San Francisco and the abbreviation for California, CA. Finally, we can run our dark sky Axios request, passing in our API key, latitude, and longitude, and retrieving our weather data. From there, we can dispatch our show weather data action, with our weather data being a large JSON object, and our current location being an array with our city and state that we pushed in. Of course, no Redux store will work without our reducer. So here we set up our root reducer, which we utilized in our store.js file. Here we set up our action cases of show weather data, where we update initial state to include our weather data as action.payload and our location array as action.location. We also return our toggle mode case here, where we'll update our mode string from F to C and vice versa. There's plenty more going on in this application. I didn't go through a number of details in the front-end components, but if there is some interest in me walking through those, I'd be happy to make another video. Take care for now.